officially to order the committee of the whole. Tuesday, the 23rd of January 2007. Vice Mayor Laws is present. Councilwoman Wallman is present. Councilwoman Garner and Councilman Porter. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the January 9, 2007 minutes. Moved by the Vice Mayor, second by Councilman Porter. Any questions on the minutes? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 2C is the Miami-Dade County Public School Region 6 boundary change presentation. Do we need to come down?
Yeah, she's got a PowerPoint.
Let's move down to the front. Start a class.
Yes, we can. That's right.
Good evening. My name is Neda Navarro, and yes, it's difficult to remember. And I'm proud to say that I'm the Regional Center 6 Superintendent and your next door neighbor. It's a pleasure for me to welcome my boss and predecessor, Mr. Freddie Woodson, who went on to bigger and better deals in the district office and is our associate superintendent. It's also an honor for me to recognize Dr. Alex Martinez, who's the administrative director for Regional Center 6. For those of you who remember Ken Rogers, he retired last year, so Dr. Martinez is our new director, taking his place. Also with us is our supervisor for social workers and our map maker expert and guru, Mr. John Steverding. Tonight's agenda is quite simple. If you all remember way back in about the year 2002, we had a state mandate. And because of that state mandate, we are now going to be building a number of schools, but tonight I will be presenting to you our recommendations on State School DD1, State School SS1, and State School TT1. At the present, they do not have a name. And we do have specific procedures that we follow in order to name these buildings. So those of you that remember, back in 2002, if you were here, the voters went to the polls and actually gave the state a mandate. That mandate became a constitutional amendment known as a class size reduction. Because of this constitutional amendment, every school district in the state of Florida had to basically look at their class sizes and make sure that they met the mandate. And the mandate, the best way for you to remember it, is what I call the trifecta. You have an 18, a 22, and a 25. 18 students per pre-K through 3 in the classrooms. 22 students, 4th grade to 8th grade. 25 students, 9th grade to 12th. So if you remember, that's the one way, you know how you always have to have an analogy, right? So I call it the trifecta, 18, 22, 25. Those are the numbers that we have to meet by mandate. What the state decided to do also was that starting with the year 2003, 2004, 05, 06, they were going to look at district level averages. So that's gone. Beginning with this year, 06, 07, the state started looking at each school. So it's an average per school. Now when I tell you about the 18, 22, 25, I need to make sure that you understand that this doesn't mean every single classroom, because you're probably thinking, wait a minute, my child's PE class has over 25 or over 22. These are the core courses. These are the math, the science, the language arts, and the social studies. These are core courses only. That's what the mandate stipulates. So, beginning this year, we started looking average per school. Next year, it would be the same thing, average per school. However, in 08, 09, and by definitely 010, 11, we must meet the class size amendment per classroom. Per classroom. Therefore, if you look at the next page, John, this is the dilemma that the district found itself in back in 2004. I'm not going to read it to you, but basically you have the total population of our school district. Then next to it you have the permanent capacity, in other words, classrooms. And then you look at the 77,000 plus deficit student stations that we were facing in 04. Now, if you combine the permanent with the relocatable, you know those portables? You know the portables, right? So permanent and relocatable together, then we have, of course, a higher capacity, and we have a smaller deficit. That was in 2004. Our facilities planning office and our construction capital improvement office hit the road running. And what they did, if we could see the next slide, is as of 2006, because of the new student stations that were opened, we now have, I'm going to take you to the very end, we now have a deficit of only 550 student stations. And that's as of last August 2006. Now what's happening? Let's take us to the next slide. In order for our division to select a site, there are a number of things that they have to be looking at. Do we own it? Can we get a site that is donated? Can we purchase it? Do we have the money to do so? Or if we do we have to obtain it by eminent domain? Next. What you see here are the factors that are involved in changing the school boundaries. Now, I wanted to give you a very short synopsis of what the history of ABC, that's how we call it, Attendance Boundary Committee, has been in our district. For 25 years, there was an ABC process that was followed. However, because of this mandate, the district has been forced to do something different. And therefore, a few months ago, our school board came up with a new school board policy and rule, and which means that they directed the superintendent of schools, Rudy Crew, together with school operations, headed by Mr. Woodson, and facilities planning, headed by Rose Diamond, to start looking for sites, start building, because we have to maintain and meet that class size amendment. So therefore, when you do that, when you start building, you have to look and redraw boundaries. And these are the factors that are involved. First and foremost, compliance with that mandate. Next, we have to look at construction of new schools. Where are we going to build the new schools? What kind of impact is this construction going to bring to our special education programs? How are we going to be utilizing the student stations? The degree and extent of the transportation needs. How is this affected, and what kind of transportation are we going to need to get our kiddies, our children, to the schools? The integrity of the feeder patterns. And for those of you who are not into education, the feeder pattern, simply said, is you have a high school, and all the elementary and middle schools that feed that high school become part of that feeder pattern. So we have a Homestead feeder pattern, we have the South Dade feeder pattern, Southridge feeder pattern. In this region, those are the southernmost. We also have the Varela Senior feeder pattern, and we have the Sunset feeder pattern. We look at assignment of students prior to new housing completion. This is a first. Now, I think that Mr. Woodson can attest to the fact that it's always been, oh my God, we have all these students coming over, let's try to build. Now what we're doing is we're building before the students come. So I think that this is just an unbelievable feat. Next, we also have to look at the promotion and maintenance of our diverse school enrollment. And we have to ensure that we prevent, reduce, or eliminate racial isolation to the extent practical. Next slide. When we look at diversity factors, we're actually looking at a number of issues here, not just whether the child is white, black, Hispanic, or Asian. We're also looking at special education programs. We're looking at free and reduced price meals. We're looking at the limited English proficient students, and we're looking at gender. Next slide. So, our new attendance boundary process brings me to you, and I'd like to cover just a few more very important dates. Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, as I explain all of these and Dr. Martinez goes through the maps, etc., keep in mind that these are proposed recommendations by this regional center. And also know that any citizen is welcome to create or to write their own recommendation to the board. February 6th is a key date. By noon, February 6th, any proposed recommendation is due to the regional center, right next door, in the next door building, on the 3rd floor. And Dr. Martinez would be the one, or Mr. Stevening, picking them up. Our next important date is February 23rd. That's when all recommendations need to be presented to the superintendent of schools, the school board attorney, etc. And our next very important date is April 18th. That's when we have a public hearing before the school board. Now, we're going to go ahead and ask Dr. Martinez to go through each of the 3 schools that we're building down south, and also give you a rendition of what they may look like. While he's talking, I may interject, and he's used to this. You know, I can't let him just say anything by himself. I have to come in and say something.
That is true. Good evening or good afternoon. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. I'm the new kid on the block. I'm the new, as she calls me, rookie director. And I tell you, Homestead is a pretty big place. I had to buy one of those little navigational things to find my way. I got myself lost a couple of times. Anyways, as she was mentioning to you, this is State School DD1 prototype. This is an architectural drawing of what the school is going to look like. And that goes for TT as well. SS is a true middle school, and it's going to be unique, and unfortunately we don't have that drawing for you yet. John, next page please. John, remember to point for me. State School DD1 K-8 Center. This is the map, and I'm going to explain to you how it affects the elementary schools. There are 3 sections that we need to look at. We have Section C, Section A, Section B. I'm just testing you, John. I could have gone in order. These 3 areas are the areas that are going to be affected by this new school. Section A, Area A, assigned from Pesco Elementary School to State School DD1. Area B, assigned from Dr. William A. Chapman Elementary School to State School DD1. And Area C, area assigned from Leisure City K-8 Center to State School DD1. Next page, John. This is how it affects or impacts the middle schools. We have sections D, E, F, and G. Area D assigned from Redlands Middle School to State School DD1 with the option of being assigned to Redland Middle School. This is somewhat confusing, and let me explain to you. When you have a K-8 center that's sprouting or being constructed within an area where you have existing middle schools, we have to give the option of those middle school students to either go to the traditional path of a middle school or the new K-8 center. For Area E, which is assigned to Centennial Middle School to State School DD with the option of being assigned to Centennial Middle School. Area F, from Campbell Drive Middle School to State School DD1 with the option of being assigned to Campbell Drive Middle School. And finally, Area G, from Leisure City K-8 Center to State School DD with the option of being assigned to Redland Middle School. The recommendations that we are proposing: establish boundaries for new school, State School DD1 K-8 Center. First, K through 6th grade students for the year 2008-2009, 7th grade students for the year 2009-2010, and 8th grade students for the year 2010-2011. Yes, Ms. Navarro.
All the K-8 centers, we're opening up K through 6. So you really think about it right now, none of those children are in the middle school at this point. So the K through 6 students are actually the 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders right now. So those, when he said 7th grade is added, those are the 6th grade that open the school, becoming the 7th grade the following year. And then 8th grade added, those are the 7th graders from that year that become an 8th grade the next.
And I failed to mention the address of this new school, 12225 Southwest 280th Street. This is the effects page. How will it impact? What are the effects of this new school on the neighboring schools? Well, our proposal is to assign 1,115 students as K through 6th grade students for the 2008-2009 from the following schools: Dr. A. Chapman Elementary, Leisure City K-8 Center, and Irving Beatrice Pesco Elementary. We also looked at the residential construction that was taking place in the area. 519 single-family units under construction in the area of Dr. William A. Chapman Elementary, 1,500 single-family units under construction in the area of Campbell Drive Middle, and 211 single-family units under construction as well in the areas of Centennial Middle, 2,400 single-family units under construction as well. Continuing with the effects, 6th through 8th grade students have an option, as I mentioned before, of State School DD K-8 Center or the respective middle school, Redland, Centennial, or Campbell Drive Middle. And DD1 will be placed in the Homestead Senior Pattern. Feeder pattern. In summary, the proposal is to establish or change boundaries for State School DD1 K-8 Center, Chapman Elementary, Leisure City K-8 Center, and Pesco Elementary. Our next school, State School SS1, 4-8 Center. Probably one of the first you're going to hear of 4-8 Center. We had a unique opportunity of thinking outside the box, and I have to give the credit to Ms. Navarro, because here we found a school that was being constructed within an area that had 2 elementaries that were extremely overcrowded. So we came up with the idea of going ahead and limiting those elementary schools to K through 3 and making this middle school a 4 through 8. And if we look at the areas A and B, John, can you point at the school? The school's right up there, and you have Redondo, which is area A, and you have Avocado, which is area B. For area A, assigned to Redondo Elementary School to State School SS1 for grades 4 through 5, and area B assigned from Avocado Elementary School to State School SS1 for grades 4 through 5.
So basically what this means is no change to either one of the 2 schools. These are the same students students that are going to K-3 that then for their 4th grade go to the new school. So we're not changing their boundary at all. It's just a matter of moving up to the new school building.
Okay. For how SS1 affects the middle schools in the area, if you look at the state school again, John, can you point at it? We have two areas, C and D. Area assigned from Homestead Middle School to State School SS1, 4-H Center, and Area D assigned from Homestead Middle School to Campbell Drive Middle School. That's fine.
One of the things that we'll try to look at when we do boundaries is common sense divisions. If you look at that little sliver right there, Area D, those students at this time are going to Homestead Middle. Now, they're so close to Campbell Drive and they have to cross US 1. And it's only about 20 students, so we're just cleaning up that boundary and sending them to Campbell Drive, which is under capacity at this point. And that's one of the reasons why we presented it now.
Next page, John. All recommendations. Establish boundaries for new school, State School SS1, for 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students, 2007-2008, 7th grade students, 2008-2009, and 8th grade students, 2009-2010. Continuing with the recommendation, establish new boundaries for Campbell Drive Middle and Homestead Middle. 6th and 7th grade students in 2007-2008. The effects. Assign 947 students as 4th, 5th, and 6th grade from the following schools: Avocado Elementary, Redondo Elementary, Homestead Middle. In the year 2007-2008 and 2008-2009, only students assigned to State School SS who have a sibling attending Homestead Middle have an option of being grandfathered into their respective schools. This school, SS1, will be placed in the South Dade senior pattern. The effects. Campbell Drive Middle. Assign 20 students, as she mentioned before, that cleanup of the boundaries, as 6th and 7th grade students for the 2007-2008 school year from Homestead Middle. In summary, establish or change boundaries of State School SS1, establish new boundaries for Avocado Elementary, Redondo Elementary, Campbell Drive Middle, and Homestead Middle. And finally, State School TT1, K-8 Center, the elementary EFBD, located southwest 157th Avenue and southwest 328th Street. If we look at the school, John, and we look at the huge area, Area A, area assigned from Campbell Drive Elementary School to State School TT K-8 Center.
Now, this has been known, I'm pretty sure you know the history about the EFBD, so we were very careful to include the EFBD area into this particular school.
It's southwest, you have the map in there, southwest 157th Avenue and southwest 328th Street.
That's the FBE school. That's the site next to the barn.
Correct. Right now,
What is being developed right now, the land area?
the land, exactly.
Okay, State School TT1, middle, as it affects the middle schools. If we look at the school, and we look at Area B, and we look at Area C is that little sliver we were talking in the previous school boundaries. Area B assigned from Campbell Drive Middle School to State School TT1, with the option to be assigned to Campbell Drive Middle School. And Area C assigned from Homestead Middle School to Campbell Drive Middle School. Our recommendations: Establish boundaries from the new school, state school, TT1. For K through 6th grade students, 2008-2009. 7th grade students, 2009-2010. And 8th grade students, 2010-2011. Continuing with the recommendation, establish new boundaries for Campbell Drive Middle, Homestead Middle, for 6th and 7th grade students in 2007-2008. What are the effects of these boundary changes? Assign 428 students as K through 6th grade students from Campbell Drive Elementary. The current construction that's taking place around that area, 3,073 single-family units under construction, and in the area of Campbell Drive Elementary and Campbell Drive Middle, 211 single-family units under construction. Continuing with the effects, 6th to 8th grade students have the option of attending state school TT1 or their respective middle school, Campbell Drive Middle. TT1 will be placed in the Homestead senior pattern. Continuing with effects, Campbell Drive Middle assigned 20 students as 6th, 7th grade students in 2007-2008 from Homestead Middle. In summary, establish or change boundaries of state school TT1 K-8 Center. Establish and change boundaries for Campbell Drive Elementary, Campbell Drive Middle, and Homestead Middle. And at this time, we're open for any questions, and hopefully we'll give you the right answer.
So, verified, and I just drew from that 157 is Kingman. That address is very deceiving. That will not be the proper address.
John, the map maker.
Well, we use basically that intersection of 157th and 328. I know that the school don't have an exact address now. It's probably going to be closer to 154th Avenue, or maybe even 150.
We're going to have to check that out in the facilities office because we need to ensure that, first of all, we don't have an address yet. And don't worry, it's being built where the EFPD district is. So we need to ensure that that's, because at first we were saying 162nd, and then rather than building the building on the west end of that 39-acre tract, we're beginning to build the east end. So that's where the change came in. But we're definitely going to check it out and make sure that it's changed. Okay.
Just a point of clarification, just so we all understand and all on the same page. I noticed, if you noticed, some of our schools will open in 07 and some in 08. What we look, because we know we have that amount of money to complete the projects that we have. So in order to try not to move kids more than once, what we try to do is look at how many times we're going to move them, and only move them one time as we possibly can. Now, the other thing that I want to just bring to everyone's attention, because I know we're looking at the EFPD school for 08, 9. We are still waiting for some deliverables from the EFPD. We're getting a little concerned because we want to meet that timeline, and if that changes, then we would be already on the property. We have a contract ready to go.
I also wanted to say that the ABC process continues to be on an annual basis. We revisit any kind of recommendations that were made. Right now, with the growth of our city, we can say we project this, but with the type of real estate market that we have, we really don't know whether we will be able to build the school, so we'll revisit next year.
Question, is there any credit being given to the charter schools that are in existence, and also aren't there future plans like Oasis Charter, and is that going to factor into your population?
Where the public schools are. And I have to tell you that Regional Center 6 has the most public schools. I mean, charter schools in the district, because this is where the land is.
Well, initially, a year or so ago, we had the common planning and zoning now. Public schools not giving any credit for the charter school population, and that seemed to have changed within the year. So hopefully you are including those existing stations in your projection. They are existing, so I don't know how you can ignore them, plus the ones that are planned in the future unless they're not going to go ahead.
I have to tell you that Region 6 is the second largest in the entire district, with 6,240 students as of last.
I understand on this parcel that I just drew the picture for you, the EFBD, thank you. The EFBD school is, like I said, to the far east, correct? And then the Dade County School, funded school, other right, parcel. So which school will be built first?
No, the west school. The west school is going to be built first.
And that's safe.
The east.
The west.
Yeah.
It was going to be the east, the west, but now we were told by our construction department it was the east.
That was opposite.
It changed.
No, Purple's already got the contract.
Yeah, the west.
So we will start with the west plan. Good. That was the original plan. I'm just telling you what we were told at the construction meeting last Monday.
Yeah, it's the west.
So, good. That's part of the answer. That's how it originally started.
It's been the west first.
But there's been a lot of rumors circulating, so I'm trying to clarify. It is going to be then the Dade County School that will be built first.
Yes.
Thank you, Linda.
Pleasure.
And at this point in time, I have to say thank you to Linda Bell. She's been unbelievably helpful with all of us. I've been around this district, and I've worked with a lot of counties, municipalities, etc., and cities, and it's been nothing like, you guys in the city of Homestead and the Education Committee. Thank you so very much, and congratulations for that grant. And we're looking forward to continue working with you.
Thanks, Amelia. Item 2D is the code amendment modification of the hearing name and ordinance. Is there a motion?
So moved, Mayor.
Moved by the Vice Mayor, is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Second by Councilwoman Gardner. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item 2E is the code amendment and ordinances, Chapter 15 Housing Standards, Panel Setters, and Chapter 19 Nuisance. What's that? Mosquitoes. Chapter 19, nuisance demolished, destroyed structures. Chapter 23.5, solid waste dumpsters. Is that you?
Yes, Mayor, we met about this about a week or two ago. Okay. It's a couple miscellaneous items that Mr. Stotts has, he often drives to the CRA, looks at issues, brings things forward to the committee, and we talk about how we can improve the area. So many of these are aesthetic improvements. The first one is for housing shutters. Let's see. Several times we know of issues where shutters have been placed, mainly in rental units, and people have been unable to get out of the units at important, in case of fire, things like that. This is a precautionary item. It's specifically limited. If you own your house and you have roll-up shutters or shutters that you can open from the inside, it doesn't pertain to you. This is for rental units that have shutters that have been put up on the outside that someone would not be able to leave their house in case of emergency. So this is really just this is really a health safety issue. The second item is breeding of mosquitoes. This is a nuisance. Anybody who has unenclosed tires that could collect water that aren't under an overhang or some sort of building is another safety issue with mosquitoes. The next item, building regulations. This is foundations. This is slabs that remain after demolition. We know after Hurricane Andrew, a lot of people left. There were properties that had sidewalks or driveways that were on the property that were never removed. They look ugly, and there is a lot of it in the CRA. So, and this is on private property only. We're not talking about city sidewalks, city driveways that connect to the property. But we would like these removed if a building is demolished. And it gives time to go into effect where, if you're going to sell your house and it takes you a little bit, you knock down the building, you don't have to go in the next day and remove the slab. It gives time for that. And the last item is for dumpsters. I know that there may be some issues where they've been going on for a while with the dumpster and there's nowhere for them to put it. Council will have the ability to listen to a request for variance because there may be some circumstances that we just can't force the code into, but there's a lot of places that need a dumpster, or they're putting it in the wrong place, or they're putting it on city right-of-way when it needs to be on their own property and hidden. So there's just some various items that we've been meaning to bring forward and just wanted to get them cleared up.
Any questions from council?
Yes, Mayor.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
I note in the ordinances themselves and in the summary it talks about the effective date for these various ordinances are far into the future. I'm wondering if it is the intent to really not have them effective until a year from now, or have them to go into place now with a grace period, if you will, for enforcement, where it gives us time to notify the owners of these properties and the commercial people who need to make different arrangements for the placements of their dumpsters. Because I think if that's the intent, that's not really what is expressed here. It would seem to me that that's what needs to happen. We need to go ahead and adopt it and then have a period of education and notification that if you don't correct this problem by 6 months or a year from now, whichever ordinance we may happen to be under, that then you're going to be subject to enforcement. But as I read this is not even going to be effective on one of these for a year and another for a couple others for 180 days. Dave?
Right, that's correct. Some of these do have a future effective date, whereas the first one on the housing standard, that takes effect immediately upon adoption on second reading. But the one with the mosquito areas, that's takes 180 days after, and then the other ones have different time periods. So that's a question for the council. I don't know if there was any discussion with CRA or other staff members as to this time frame.
Well, as an example, when we adopted the initial paint standards, It's effective now for anything new that comes in, but if you're not in compliance, you have to be in compliance, and I think the sunset on that, not the sunset, but the trigger provision, I think, was a couple of years out, but we went ahead and put it in place for a sufficient period of notification and education, and to bring new construction and new paintings in compliance, and I'm hopeful that that's really what was intended here.
That could certainly be clarified to provide that the ordinance would be effective immediately, but as to existing uses in violation, they would have a certain time period to come into compliance.
And that was the intent, Councilman Losner, so that if tomorrow the ordinance was in effect and somebody came in to get a permit to demolish a house, they also had to take up the slab. But those, where there were slabs remaining, had a year to deal with the issue. That would give our code enforcement folks time to contact them on a friendly basis and let them know what was coming, give them an opportunity to begin to deal with those issues over time, but not begin issuing citations day after tomorrow with slabs. And the same thing with tires. You can't erect a covering that quick. And it's not just tires. It can be open 55-gallon drums in places where water accumulates, or any kind of open container that sits out that accumulates water where mosquitoes can breed that's not underneath the cover. And again, the intent was not to make people be in violation day after tomorrow. And you're correct.
Nor do I think the intent is that you get a free ride for 6 months or a year, and then we're going to start the enforcement process.
No.
At that point, so I would suggest that maybe that needs to be an adjustment in the language of all of these, that, forestalling, the enforcement as to existing conditions that are addressed. I just want to comment, this certainly is not just limited to a CRA problem. It is a city-wide problem for dumpsters, and I'm concerned whether or not, and I'm sure we're going to, talk about it later, whether or not, if a year's even long enough for code enforcement to build up that area of the department and get out and do things. I mean, I joke, but it's not really funny. I've been driving by the same house almost every morning for at least 6 years that I don't understand why there hasn't been some enforcement, but, we're just adding to the burden of code enforcement here. Not that it doesn't need to be done, not that these issues aren't important. I just wonder how well we're going to be able to handle it a year from now, 6 months or a year from now.
And we did have Captain Chong in our meetings, so we want to keep them aware of changes as we're making them so he can continually tell his people and work with them. So he is aware of these, and he's been working very well with us.
And also, some of these become self-correcting. I mean, there are only so many existing slabs, and once those are gone, and slabs have to be demolished as part of any demolition, removed as part of any demolition, it becomes self-correcting over time.
Subject to my comments, I'll move it.
Moved by the Vice Mayor, is there a second? Second by Councilwoman Bell. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 2F is the consent agreement between Miami-Dade County Department of Environmental Resource Management, Durham, and the City of Homestead. Lake excavation, Southwest 244th Street between Southwest 147th Avenue and Southwest 152nd Avenue. Mr. Manager?
Yeah. Mr. Mayor and Council, it is staff's recommendation that Council approve this consent agreement between Miami-Dade County Durham office and the City of Homestead. I think we all know a lot of the history. We have Ed Swaycon here, who is our engineer of record. For any technical questions that you may have, we've outlined the requirements. There's a monitoring requirement. There's a fine, if you will, requirement. Within here, there's a monitoring, within the monitoring plan, there's a duration to come back and look at this, what is happening, and seeing if there's changes, and then further determination of how long this will go. And that was a 5-year term. Will be looked at, reviewed, and the County Durham will make a determination on water testing after that 5-year period, the continuous water testing.
Moved by Councilwoman Wallman. Is there a second? Second. Second by Councilman Porter. Any comments from council?
Mayor.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Kurt, have we put a worst-case scenario price tag if we were called upon to do the remediation?
Well, that's a good question. Really, I didn't say this in the opening statement, but there was a lot of negotiation going on, as well as our counterparts from Dade County have worked very well with us. But there was a lot of negotiation. Where we are now is a long way from where we started. If we had, I think we started with in the area of $1 million fine and backfilling the lake, which is probably in the area, best we could estimate, generally was about $6 million that we would be looking at. As it is now, we're withholding the need to fill in the lake unless there is a movement, as the plan calls for it. There are several wells. There's a Sentinel well, and where they test, that puts you on notice if the salt front reaches that, puts you on notice to get your plan together. But if it hits the trigger well, then you need to start backfilling that lake and dealing with DERM on that. At the present time, that is a much preferred scenario than just going ahead and filling it back to the acceptable level and paying a larger fine. So there was a lot of back and forth, and with Miami-Dade, they were very good at negotiating with us on this.
But the practical effect of the consent agreement allows dredging operations to go back into effect, or just the removal of what's already there?
All right, good question again. How do we get back in and finish the project? This will allow us to get back in, but it's 1/3 of what we got to do to get that full permission to get back in. We have the state, South Florida Water Management, who has given us an indication that they've let Miami-Dade County DERM take the lead, so to speak, in this consent decree. They will look at what Miami-Dade County does, and guys, if I'm saying anything wrong, speak up. Seeing what we're doing with the county, they'll probably pattern their consent decree with us after Miami-Dade County's. Then they will add their penalty clause to it, and we'll pay that. And then something that I've never seen before or understand, but the Corps of Engineers has, and I don't know if you recall our whole saga with that, but the Corps of Engineers has extended our permit to dig for 1 year till January 5th, 2008. So therefore, with this being done and the state, we don't anticipate, you say that, I'm not going to wait here, we don't anticipate much more difficulty with the state once we get aligned here. And we could theoretically start operations back, sometime in March if the state, works with us quickly. And that will give us to March to January to get Phil out of there, and then we're going to have to deal with it. We're already applying for an extension with the Corps of Engineers. So we already are acknowledging that, but it's going to be a little more extensive review of the site than we've had. We've got to go back for a Panther review, for example, on that site. So,
assuming all that falls into place, all it really does is allow the holder of the right that we sold, the city side of the fill pile.
That's correct.
That's all this really does, because we are in litigation on the ownership of the balance of what's in the ground.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you, Kurt. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Lusher. Any other comments?
Question.
Ms. Bell?
Certainly, I think this is a very fair, very fair agreement, and I agree it could have been far worse. And so I know that you guys did a great job on the negotiations. In essence, what do you think that, I'm trying to look a little bit ahead, that this violation is going to end up costing the city of Homestead at the end? I mean, I'm seeing well over $1 million by the time you add the fines and the lawyer fees and now we're opening ourselves up to being looked at by Durham and South Florida Water Management District, and there'll be new and even more stringent guidelines, like we had the Panther issue with the EFBD school. So there may be mitigation. I mean, there could be a lot of things that we didn't have to do before that we have to do now. And so at the end of the day, I know I'm asking you to look into a crystal ball, if you will, but I'm expecting this probably to go over well over $1 million to the city of Homestead taxpayers. I think it's safe to say it'll go over $1 million. There's some things we're going to have to do, at least 5 years, but maybe in perpetuity, in terms of the monitoring of that salt front.
their legal fees. We still have litigation going on.
We have to monitor the wells constantly.
That's correct.
Are there any more problems with the site out there? I know there were some issues with the particular site.
Well, I think the cleanup of the site, because there was some illegal material there, that's being done. There was a plan there, and permission was given, and Redlands cleaning that site as we speak. And there's the only thing I'm not sure at this point as we speak with the milled asphalt that was there, what has been done with that yet, or planned for that. But most of the other area is cleaned.
Thank you.
Mr. Shahada?
Mr. Mayor, council members, I just want to take this opportunity to thank Roger Carton and Carlos Espinoza. Even though it was tough negotiations, but they also understood the city side and they cooperated with us to the max. And I also like to thank Ed Swikan and Joe Sarota for also putting all the time it took to reach this point.
Thank you, Mr. Shahada. I too would like to share my thanks to you, Mike, and the manager, and I didn't expect anything less from Roger. You got a long history with the city, and certainly with the other members of the team that made it happen. And I just want Roger and the folks at the county to know that we learned a very valuable lesson through this whole process. And you can rest assured that we are going to move forward carefully, deliberately, and with the resources out there that we need to get the job done properly. We assure you of that. We certainly want to thank you for all of you've done to help us through this whole process. Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Let me get Mr. Manager and Mr. Sharp.
Just one quick one. I think there was discussion about a special call this week.
Yes.
And Sheila will notify you.
Friday morning.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Just real quickly, Steve Shiver, 47 North Chrome Avenue, Shores Development, Inc. To piggyback on Mr. Losner's comments about allowing the holder of the city field, which purchased, which is Shores Development some time ago, allowing them to go in and get the fill. I just want to make sure that we do that as quickly as possible. You know that we have been really waiting, and interest payments and things of that nature really add up. So we would like to go in, and I just want to put on the record that I agree with Mr. Losner. Thank you. I'd like to get this as soon as possible. If there's anything that we can do to continue to further the cause of getting it open back up, we'd like to do that. And then lastly, I've been involved in a lot of negotiations with different levels of government, different levels of the community, and it's really nice to see when, so to speak, the A-team of plan comes together. You had a lot of people and a lot of moving pieces to this puzzle in place, and it really just, it was nice to see it come together, so finally. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shine. No further question. As the manager mentioned, I've asked that we have a special call to officially approve this on Friday morning if we can. Hopefully, most of you, at least a quorum will be available Friday morning to move it forward. No other comments? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Good. Thank you all very much.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Before you conclude the COW portion of the agenda, I would just like to request a matter pertaining to some attorney-client sessions, if I may. On behalf of Eric Stetton, I would like to request attorney-client sessions on the following litigation, which will be scheduled. Jason Williams versus the City of Homestead, that's a shooting case. Edwin Lawrence versus the City of Homestead, that's a alleged negligence case concerning a garbage truck incident. And finally, Juan Rubio, a workers' compensation case. We'll be coordinating with Mr. Stetton through the City Clerk's office for the convenient scheduling of those sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Bill, Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. Bid 200608, the substation construction, reliable substation services change order. 124.
Councilwoman Bell, Mayor, Council. We have 4 work order changes here in regards to our construction of both our substations. As we've gone through this process, we've had some changes that have occurred, some delays. Again, Durham getting permits from Durham slowed things down a little bit, for example, and in that process from June to April, somewhere in that time frame during last year, the price of copper went up significantly. When we got in and actually did some of the work, it changed. I don't even know the technical terms of this. I got Greg here as the backup if we need it for technical questions, but changed some of the resistivity, they call it, of the land, which required additional work once it was filled, dug out and filled, and then that changed what the original reading was on that. So, I mean, things of that nature have caused some change orders we expected to occur, and these are reflected tonight. And Greg, do you have anything to add?
Yes, sir, Councilwoman Bell and City Council. The major bulk of the changes are due to, we released design for bid purposes and then made permit, or applied for permit, and there was some changes required for the drainage and stormwater retention and things of that nature that changed the design. So when we released the construction drawings, there was differences between the release for bid drawings and the release for construction drawings that impacted the cost, and that was the bulk of the copper also had an impact. The delays because of permitting, the price of copper escalated dramatically over a course of 3 or 4 months, and so the price of copper impacted also. So that was the major reasons for the change.
So then the change order is on our end?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
That's the main question, because this is a pretty hefty change.
Yes, and just to put it in perspective, the entire construction contract is $4 million. Right. And that's just for labor and equipment. That's not materials. So it puts it a little bit more in perspective, a $400,000 change order for a $4 million contract, so it's about 10%.
Thank you.
We also had an additional fill cost.
What's the anticipated date of completion for this?
The anticipated date of completion for the Redland substation on the west side is the end of February, 1st of March, and then the Renaissance substation is around in April, end of April.
Any further comments or questions from council?
Question, Madam Chair.
Mr. Lawson.
As I recall, this is not the first or even the second change order for the substations, and we talk about, the relative amount of this. Off the top of your head, anybody who can answer it, what have been the total amounts of the change orders for these projects? And,
yes, sir. This is actually the first change orders that have been processed. There have been no previous change orders. These are the first. But we do anticipate some additional change orders in regards to the transmission line feeding the substations. And there'll probably be, we can anticipate some additional.
Phil, there hasn't been any? I was thinking that there were some additional transformer costs or some changes there as we were accumulating some of the equipment.
No, these are the first change orders that have been come before council.
I apologize. I was thinking there had already been some during the course of the design and initial construction on one of the 2 substations.
Oh, yes, so there might have been some design change orders. There was some design changes that occurred during the design process.
It did have price tags attached.
Yes.
That's probably right.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move, Madam Chair.
It's been moved by the mayor.
Second.
It's been seconded by Councilman Porter. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes carried. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Bell. Councilman Wallman?
Yes, I don't know, did you, Mr. Manager, mention that the landscaping was taken off the original agenda?
That's correct. It's off the amended agenda.
Those of you that pulled up your website, and this one is the new agenda. This particular recommendation is of the naming of the community center. Everybody knows that we've applied for grants and received grants for the senior center because we have 2 very individual grants. We're asking, or the staff has recommended that we make suggestions to the Community Relations Board as to the naming of those particular centers. And there's really going to be 3. There's the original
Mr. Dickinson, it's a William F. Bill Dickinson Senior Center. We want to make sure that that remains. But because we have a grant for $492,818 from the Health Resources and Services Administration, emphasizing health and multi-generational activity rooms, we are recommending that that be called the Homestead Community Complex, that portion. And then we have another grant of $500,000 for cultural facilities. It's the grant from the state of Florida, and it's for the addition of cultural amenities such as a room with a stage, lighting. You know, if you remember when we had the original presentation, we had the idea that we could do plays there, performances. In the other complex, we wanted it to be geared towards health because that's where that grant came from, and we have certain stipulations with the grants that we have to adhere to. So staff is recommending, and I'm recommending, that the portion with the health center be called Homestead Community Complex, and the portion with the culture be called Homestead Cultural Center. You know, I mean, I've had pros and cons on this because people don't want Mr. Dickinson's name to be lost in this sea. Marlene?
Councilman Waldman, members of council, you're correct. We want to get suggestions from mayor and council to move it forward to the Human Relations Board, because you as a council months back had directed the Human Relations Board to come forward with some rules and regulations, and they just passed them last week. What is happening here is the architect is putting the construction documents together so that we can go out to bid in approximately 30 to 45 days, and he needs some direction as far as the signage. Right now we call it the William F. Bill Dickinson Senior Center, and like you said, Councilman Wallman, with the additional dollars, we would like to actually name the whole complex Homestead Community Complex, and then inside the complex there would be two distinct areas. One would still be the senior center and the other would be a cultural center, and it either could be called the Homestead Cultural Center or it could have a name like XXX John Doe Cultural Center, similar to what the senior center has, the William F. Bill Dickinson Senior Center.
That's not what I understood when I talked to the manager. You know? I understood it to be that we would still have the original building as Mr. Dickinson Center, and then the grant that houses the health unit, because we have criteria with that grant, that be called the complex, and then the other would be called the cultural center. So what you're saying, Marlene, is that you want one overall name. And see, I have all respect for the Community Relations Board, but I'm hoping that council will move forward a name to that board rather than there be 15, 18 different names. You know, I want council to move forward a recommendation.
Absolutely.
As to what that name should be.
Absolutely, but what Parks had recommended, I'm sorry that there was some miscommunication here.
And I've been trying to call you, and you've been trying to call me.
I know, we've been playing telephone tag here.
Yes.
But that on the back part of your greenie, you'll see Homestead Community Complex, the last page there. And then under that is the William F. Bill Dickinson Senior Center. And where it says Homestead Cultural Center, it could be like Mary Jane Cultural Center, John Doakes Cultural Center. There's where we're looking for a name because of the grants that we have. It now is more diversified rather than just a senior center. It's a cultural center that can be used by all age groups.
Vice Mayor wants to say something, but can I just say something real quick? Okay. That's exactly what I don't want to happen, is that you have, I'm just going to use your example, Mary Jane Center. You know, I mean, with all due respect, Mr. Dickinson's name should be the only name on there, and then we can always do others, but Vice Mayor and then Councilwoman Bell, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm a little biased because I am when it comes to that name, but I was concerned, we don't have two different buildings here when it's built. And, I look at that building, and let's not forget, let's not lose sight of the fact that the underlying property is Musselwhite Park, named for a Florida mayor from the 1950s. And I think that's kind of been lost in the shuffle, and we need to begin to, I think, resuscitate that designation as well. But I viewed it in terms of, we have a building there, and in my view, the building is the Dickinson building. And if we're going to do anything, let's not make distinctions between old and young. Let's have the William F. Bill Dickinson Homestead Community Center, which is the designation for the entire building. Now, in the future, if we wanted to do something along the lines of what they're doing, have done in the old hospital and in the new hospital building, if someone merits having a room within that building designated, let's say you've got the banquet room, or there's a mini theater there, stage play, so forth. I think sometime in the future, we could consider upon some recommendations making some designation and memorial or what have you, honorarium, to a person or family or event for areas within the building. But I don't want the building to be seen as two different pods, and I'd really like to kind of erase the distinction even, and I'd like to hear some comment on this, is do we really want the moniker of senior center? Because this is truly going to be an overall Homestead Community Center. And it would be my preference if it could just, somehow maintain to be the Dickinson Community Center or the William F. Bill Dickinson Homestead Community Center as the name of that building. And then if we're going to do something inside later, we can deal with that. But I think it would be very unwieldy and confusing to name pods of a building.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bell.
I was going to say almost the same thing and agree with you, Judy. I think you're absolutely right. We don't want to lose the William F. Bill Dickinson Center. I think that I absolutely agree with you that needs to stay. And when I grew up here, came here in '79, it was Musselwhite. It was Musselwhite Park that she went to, and then the William, Bill Dickinson Center. So I think it should be, Homestead, the Homestead William F. Bill Dickinson Center. And if you want to drop the senior center and just put the center, or the William F. Bill Dickinson Cultural Center, or however you want to do it, but I think the name has to remain. I agree. And I was thinking too, are people going to be confused that I'm walking into this room and it's got one name, and now I'm walking into this room and it's got another name, but the center is this name? I mean, my question would be this: is it a requirement of the grant to do that?
Councilwoman Bell, what we were trying to do is just to get some direction as far as the signage, but it's an excellent idea to drop the senior. That's where we were trying to go, is to drop the senior, because now it's a cultural center, multi-generational center, and to get some guidance and direction to give to the architects so that we could take this out to bid.
Would a motion be in order?
Yes. Councilwoman Waldman, I think that it would be nice for, like, if where the exercise facility is, to have that facility named, like this is this facility, with signage only, but the actual outside signage should be the William F. Bill Dickinson Center,
Homestead
Center, or the Homestead, Homestead Bill Dickinson Center. So I agree with you.
I agree. Mr. Porter?
I think it's all been said. I agree it should stay in its capacity.
No, I embrace what's been said too. I think the William F. Dickinson
Community Center.
Community Center. When we say community, it encompasses all the cultural component, the recreation component, the senior citizen component.
That'll be the designation for the building.
That'll be the
entire building.
Yeah.
And that makes sense, because we have FICA Williams Community Center.
Yeah, it's very consistent with what we do.
And this was very confusing if those of you on the council read it with me. I mean, it's very confusing, and I was very concerned about whether or not it was a criteria with the grant. But since it's not, then may I entertain a motion? Vice Mayor, do you want to make that, please?
It would be my motion that the building be designated the William F. Bill Dickinson And I'm torn whether or not it should be Homestead Community Center or just Community Center.
Your motion.
Do you want to call it the complex since it's so...
I don't like the word complex.
That's confusing.
All right.
Community center.
Don't make it too
Yeah, William F. Bill Dickinson Homestead Community Center shall be the designation for the entire building.
Second motion.
Okay.
That's a mouthful.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes,
Ms.
carried.
Perhaps as we move along, maybe we should get in contact with Mary Lou Snyder and gather some history on her father, Mayor Musselwhite, and again renew and have some kind of memorialization of his history as the designation. That is still Musselwhite Park. That it's been over 50 years since he was mayor, and every time we go to a funeral, that memory is lost, and I think we need to begin to try to preserve that. So as the architects are working on that as well.
And keep in mind that this will be brought forth to the Community Relations Board as council's recommendation for naming, and it would still have to be passed through the Community Relations Board, correct?
We will be bringing it to the next meeting, and we plan to bring some schematic drawings probably to the next committee of the whole for your review and final approval.
Very good. All right. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Walbert. Councilman Porter?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of quick, simple issues. Item A is an agreement with Portofino Oaks. We have to go and have an agreement with the Homeowners Association in order for the police department to go in and police the roads, and this is a recommendation to do that.
I'll move that, Councilman Porter.
It's moved by Ms. Wallman, seconded by Ms. Garner. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Item B is we're going to transfer a vehicle that's basically outlived its service. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Porter, Mayor and Council, it's our recommendation that the vehicle listed within a green sheet here be deemed surplus property and actually turned over to former Officer Buchanan. Let me give you a little background. If you'll remember, Officer Buchanan retired from Miami-Dade County. He was a traffic homicide investigator, very skilled in that field. As a matter of fact, his afterlife from being a police officer is he's a consultant in traffic accident reconstruction for attorneys and judges and cases. When he came here, he wanted to be a reserve officer because he wanted to have his hand still in law enforcement. He came here working and agreeing to train our people who, to this point, we did not do traffic homicide investigations. That was still done by the county for us, and oftentimes we tied up a lot of manpower waiting for them to be available to come down to scenes to handle fatalities or potential fatalities. So he came in, he trained our people, we got them schooled, and while he was here doing that, he did some of the investigations himself where there were no conflicts. And mainly he trained our people to do it, brought in equipment to do it. He also purchased this vehicle to be assigned to him with his own money so that he could use this vehicle. And we felt that, and he would like to have this because while he's no longer going to be a reserve officer as a civilian, he will still come down and advise our people in traffic fatalities and traffic homicide cases. So we think it's only right that he be returned this vehicle. It's a 2003, I think. Ford Crown Victoria is pretty much, here we are going into 07. Its usefulness, but return that back to him.
He's well worth everything that he does.
Move the recommendation.
Second.
It's properly moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to, there's been a tremendous amount of confusion over these grants that we accepted last week. And I just wanted to take just a couple of seconds and go over it for my own clarification and I think for some of staff's clarifications. We received 3 grants. One was a $750,000 grant that was applied for and was received, and the grant is a 2-year grant, and there's a portion of this grant that is a pass-through that goes to Sweetvine. It's $100,000 per year for 2 years it goes to Sweetvine. For what they currently do in truancy as far as housing the kids, the rest of this grant basically goes to the city police department for victimized children, in violent backgrounds. And that was really confused. I was confused after some of the things that I've read. So I wanted to put that on record, and Chief or Captain Bowe, anytime that I misspeak, please let me know. But there was another grant that
by Sweetvine Incorporated. They have an after-school program and are opening it up in the daytime as an alternative to outdoor suspension and for a drop-off point for truants. But it does fund one truancy suspension center to address Campbell Middle School and Homestead Senior High. This should be up and running by February the 1st. And this is the exact memo that I got from Sandy. And let me explain the bottom line. The bottom line is we had 0. And Miss Evelyn Greer, our wonderful school board member, called me with a problem. She says, we have a serious problem. And she said, truancy is very serious in the city of Homestead, specifically Homestead Senior High and some of the surrounding schools. So I called Captain Kennedy at the time and shared with him the problem and said, what can we do? Can we begin to set up some meetings? So we kind of set up a little mini task force, if you will. And the first meeting was in Chief Lowell's conference room. And it was Ed Bowe, and it was Chief Lowell and Captain Kennedy at the time, the school board police, Miss Nanny, Weed and Seed. We had many other various agencies. We had 3 meetings total, I believe, where we decided we could sit here and talk, but we can't do anything without the dollars to implement policies. So Sandy then said, let's apply for grants. And so we said, great. And I want to give, and I did it the other night, I'm going to do it again. I want to give my absolute credit goes to Evelyn Greer for alerting me of the problem, and to Sandy Nanny for being probably one of the most brilliant grant writers around. And we have her in the city of Homestead, we have her in the police, we have her in the SOS. Now, I said it exactly, I read this word for word, and this is what I read the other night. Quite frankly, I don't understand the problem. We had $0, now the whole community has $2 million. $1 million of it's countywide, $1 million of it is in the South Dade area. We have truancy intervention, truancy prevention, trying to deal with the whole family, the holistic. Not every penny is going to a truancy site. We don't want that. We want to prevent them before they become truants. There are many programs involved, and the Children's Trust decided that which organizations that it would be funneled through, not necessarily the city of Homestead. Not necessarily the City of Homestead's Police Department, the Children's Trust themselves, especially since Sweetvine already had an ongoing program. And so that's why the monies were dispersed the way they were. Now, Mayor, we had $0 when the problem was brought to me. I began coordinating meetings. We got something done. And we got $2 million because of Sandy Nanny, because of a problem coming to me. I headed for the police department. We began coordinating meetings. The bottom line is families are winners, children are winners, the schools are winners, the community are winners. I quite frankly don't understand the problem. I read this is the truth, I stand by it, I am baffled. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. The point that I was trying to make, Mayor, was the fact that in the Friday News Leader there was an article that was not quite as clear.
I didn't write it.
And there was some questions that were brought to my attention about this article, and the issue with me was I just wanted to set the record straight, comparing it to this article that was written on Friday. Now, subsequent, I think that there's an article that's been written that is a little bit more clear on the issue, but it has not been, I agree, it is all a good thing, but what we've got to be careful of, as my concern as the chair of public safety, is involving the police department in something more than is currently. We are overtasked at the moment and undermanned at the moment, and to add additional requirements on the police department, I just want us to be careful as we go forward.
But I don't see that, Mr. Porter. I don't see any additional requirements on the police department here. I'm not seeing that.
When we receive grants that task officers with stopping and picking up truants on an ongoing basis and taking them to a facility and then housing them and taking the responsibility for them, there will be a loss of services in other areas that are currently the responsibility of the police department. I'm not arguing the fact that it is a problem inside Miami-Dade County. When we have all the rest of the problems fixed, and we have all the money that we're currently sending to the school board for their policing, we would be able to take this over a little bit more easily. I just wanted to bring to the attention of the people that read this Friday article, it is not necessarily factual. The grants that we received had specifics to them, and they don't match what was in the article.
Phone calls about some other areas where there's some of the same issues, the northerly end of Kingman, just south of Campbell, and even some questions about the status of the installation of the landscaping on new and improved Campbell. And my question is, or my suggestion is it the will of the council to ask the attorneys to start talking to us about how can we really enforce those obligations against whether it be an association or the overall developer, whoever it is that's responsible? Because as we've seen, when those that we feel are responsible shirk their responsibilities in light of safety and liability issues, our crews or our contractors at the taxpayer's expense have been going out and doing the maintenance such to create a safe situation. I'm wondering that, it doesn't seem particularly fair that those who are responsible can shirk their responsibility. And what enforcement action do we have? I mean, I think in terms of big picture of let's stop issuing building permits or accepting zoning applications or what have you, but when these entities recognize that if they don't do it, we as a municipality almost have to, is there any way to level the playing field to create some sort of enforcement? And, do we want to begin looking at that?
If I can answer that briefly, I think one approach might be we might have to file an action to recover the city funds that are expended for doing that work. I think that particular one, if it involves Kingman Road, deals with an old agreement where the association clearly was obligated to make the maintenance. And I know they've been warned by prior correspondence that if they fail to take care of the matter and the city does do the work, the city may well make a claim and, if necessary, file an action against them for recovery.
But what about future enforcement? I understand for past, but I mean we don't want to be in the business. Maybe you all do. We'll find
we don't want to be in that business.
And you will do that.
We have plenty of work to do
without that.
Right. So we'll take a look at that and see what could be done.
Appreciate that. Next item, Mayor, I know that before he left, Mr. Shawnan, again in the same area, Mr. Chandra had sent out some very stern correspondence regarding the failure of developers to install the lighting and signage to the standards that we have adopted. And I don't know if I don't see Mr. Brea here. I just want to say let's not let that fall through, because the next thing you know, the community's built out, people are moved in, we don't have the right lights, we don't have the right signage, and there's no one to tag to do that. I mean, I think we were all at a consensus that now is the time to do that as the new construction happened. And then, from what I understood from Mr. Chandra, certain builders said, make me. We're not going to do it. So, if we could just follow up on that. And finally, I noticed that the commercial project on Northwest 15th Street, just west of the farm store, it's very nearing completion. And I believe that I had the distinction of sitting on both P&Z and then transition to council when that site plan was approved, when it was put into place for, I believe, Dr. Wong, when he anticipated doing a medical office there. As I recall, one of the conditions was a right-hand turn only out of the driveway. I mean, we all recognize just the traffic nightmare, and I'm wondering if you could have someone check on that and do some sort of, the last-minute CO checklist, that there is at least some signage or something in place that would tend to indicate that the exit there is to be right-hand turn only rather than against the traffic. I mean, we have a driveway that abuts the farm store's driveway, and it's just becoming a real mess there. And again, if we don't catch it before they start, we seem to have a problem doing that. That's all I had tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vice Mayor. Ms. Wellman?
Yes, Vice Mayor, thank you for bringing up the issue with the landscaping, because that was on my agenda. to address with the beautification, but now that we've had an opinion from the city attorney, I think that that's pretty much taken care of that. So that's one less problem that our beautification committee will have to worry about. I just want to say that since we lost Main Street Cafe and the concerts that they would have there on a weekly basis sometimes, the Villages of Homestead has decided to start a concert series. Nothing compared with community concerts, but the folk, the blues, the jazz. And the reason that I'm promoting this so much is that the Villages of Homestead's clubhouse
Association agreed to maintain that median and the sides of the roads. Now, the city planning development has allowed commercial and housing developments to come in, rip the road apart, throw all the sprinkler pipes that the Keysgate Association put into the road, put sidewalks in, ran water lines down the street, made cuts in the median, made turning lanes. In essence, they made a complete disaster of the whole street with the good wishes of the city. With the good wishes of the city, whether it's public works, whether it's planning and development, it is still the city that allowed it to happen, and I do not believe that fairness, if you're pointing the finger at the Keysgate Community Association to maintain something that is now not farmland anymore, every piece of land north of the Keysgate community is owned by a building developer or a commercial developer. How is it possible that the taxpayers living in Keysgate, paying taxes, we get no discount, we pay the highest taxes in the whole city of Homestead. Why do we now have to pay double tax to maintain a road that you people have allowed to be destroyed? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. And we will end the meeting at this time. Thank you all very much.